I laughed under my breath and flipped to the back cover. Right under a picture of a motorcyclist swerving to avoid a literal rain of cats and dogs, it read, "Did your brake pedal become a horseshoe crab? Did a hitchhiker show up in your car and start speaking the language of the ancient ones? Again? Don't worry, we've got you covered with everything you need to know, from garden variety spectral apparitions to omega-grade manifestations. Hey, look at this." I held the book up for my fiancée to see, who was across the store filling up 2 slushy cups for us. "It says we need this to be safe from." I opened a random page in the book. "The Spiced Eggnog Salesman." "Well then, I guess we better buy it," she shouted back. I grinned and tucked it under my arm while I grabbed us some snacks for the road. We were taking what I called my stomping grounds trip. I grew up in New Jersey and called it home all the way through my high school. I've lived all across that beautiful state, north, south, and central. Then, I went to Long Island for college, found love, and the rest is history. I always romanticized New Jersey and had the photographs to prove it. As luck would have it, my fiancé finally agreed to a road trip through my favorite spots to see what it's all about. And, just like any great journey, our story starts at the first wah-wah across state lines. We'd been driving for about a half hour after eating our lunches and filling up the tank. I realized that Kate was unusually quiet. I glanced over and saw her reading the book I picked up. Must be pretty captivating, huh? That's a good word for it. There's so much detail on the weirdest shit in here. Right now, I'm reading about what to do if your windshield catches on fire. Just the windshield. Yeah. It happens, apparently. I'm guessing, spray it with wiper fluid. That's the #1 mistake people make. Wiper fluid would just make the fire worse. You're supposed to turn your windshield defogger on, but blast cold air instead. That kinda makes sense. Exactly. And you're not gonna like what they say about convenience store sushi. You mean, like the kind I just had for lunch? Yeah. It's funny, the drawing here looks just like it. Anyway, apparently you're going to get very familiar with some tentacles. She held up an illustration in the book. A driver had tentacles exploding out of his face and was driving off the road. "I'll let you know if I feel anything funny," I said and chuckled. Just ahead, traffic was slowing down. I braked, and eventually, all traffic stopped. I looked ahead and saw a sea of brake lights on our side, as far as the eye could see. Great, an accident, though you'd think that with 3 lanes, we wouldn't be sitting here. Kate nodded, but was deep in the book. We sat for what had to be 5 minutes. I was about to get out of my car and check in when Kate grabbed my hand. "Hold, the next chapter's about dead traffic. It says you should carefully check the other cars, but you can't, under any circumstances, leave your vehicle." I took a moment to study the other vehicles. They all had the same license plate. Passenger cars, trucks, vans, everything all had identical Jersey plates. I felt a pit start to grow in my stomach. I tried to look at the drivers and the passengers in the cars, but it was difficult to. It felt like I was trying to stare at the sun, my eyes squinted on their own and I felt myself just instinctively avoiding it. But I kept trying, and when I really forced myself to, I saw shadows. Shadows, or, I guess, figures made out of shadow. They sat motionless in the driver and passenger seats of every car all around us. Their bodies were hazy, and I could see sunlight glinting off of little particles inside of them. And deeper, I saw something bright, almost like. A gurgling from my stomach snapped me out of it. What does it say we are supposed to do? It depends on what you see in the car. Do you see shadows or frogs? I started to realize how ridiculous this all was. Shadows, obviously. What do you mean frogs? Okay, shadows, hang on, that's in a later chapter. I felt a huge burp well up inside my throat. Bracing for it, I opened my mouth and felt a thick, wet and slimy tentacle flop out of my mouth. I wanted to scream, but it came out muffled. Kate jumped in her seat and panicked when she saw me. She thumbed back to an earlier chapter in the book. I felt myself start to gag as another tentacle crawled its way up my throat. You have to pull them out. I made a panicked noise, wishing instead I could yell, what the hell do you mean I have to pull them out? I gestured first to Kate, then to the tentacles. No, it says I can't do it, it'll only get worse. You have to pull them out yourself. I'm sorry. The new tentacle tickled my teeth. I bit down and immediately felt a sharp pain, as if it was just part of my own mouth. I grabbed the first tentacle and tried to pull it out. My hand slid right down it, with so much force that I slammed my fist on the steering wheel and honked the horn. I saw shadows start to shift in their seats. I couldn't see any faces, but I felt myself being stared at. I grabbed the tentacle again, wrapped it around my hand, and pulled hard. I felt a bit of pain, felt a pop, and immediately felt relief. The tentacle wriggled around in my hand. I opened the window and threw it onto the road. The other tentacle started to withdraw, and I could feel it retreating back into my mouth and down my throat. I opened wide and shoved my hand back, digging my nails into the tentacle and fighting to drag it back out. I felt every bit of it. First, it struggling and slamming itself on any wall it could find. Then, I felt suction cups stick themselves to my throat. Finally, a stinging pain and the taste of blood, and dozens of little popping noises as I wrenched it out and all the way back up. I pulled on it, too, until it came clean out. I opened the window and flung it out, choking back vomit. I heard a wet smack and saw it slowly sliding down the window of the car next to us. There wasn't a car next to us before. A few seconds later, I heard their passenger side door open. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw something shadowy and smoky standing right next to my door. It started to glow bright orange. I looked over at Kate. She was staring back at me with eyes wide. The book just has one word. One word about what we're supposed to do. What's that? I said, my voice garbled. I felt one last tentacle working its way up. Drive. I heard a tap on my door. I slammed my foot on the gas and closed my eyes.